Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at a bunch of planned BR changes for April of 2024. What we're going to do is we're going to split it up into two videos. So you have this one, which will look at ground, and then later on there'll be a video that looks at aviation and also naval. A lot of these changes scream of kind of BR decompression in the mid-tiers, and also trying to move around a bunch of AAs to fit the current CAS meta, which is going on in a lot of areas. There aren't really any here that I kind of disagree with. The aviation side of things, there are a few issues with not really solving the problem of them, and instead trying to fix it by creating some pretty aggressive areas. But first of all, we'll have a look at ground. I'll try and use the general stuff where applicable, like the video and things, but understand I did change over my system recently so we could get 4K resolutions on stuff, and I don't have a ton of 4K footage, so just bear with me on this one. It'll be a lot better in the future. The first vehicle is the L62 Anti-2. This is a Swedish SPAA, but let's be honest, nobody actually uses it as an SPAA. Everybody just uses it as a tank destroyer, because its targeting speed is pretty bad. All of these vehicles, which are low tier with the kind of 40mm or similar caliber, have pretty much gone up over time because of their anti-tank capabilities. So a lot of people first spawn this vehicle, along with stuff like the LVTGB, and just go after people with the autocannon. And since there's not a ton of armor at the BR, and they can even punch through stuff like T-34 turrets, that's probably why it's going up in BR. Is it crazy meta breaking? Is it going to annihilate everything? No, I don't think so, and generally it might just screw up some lineups, and that's really about it. The Puma is going up again, the STKFC 2342, and it should do. It's been one of those vehicles which has been very good for the longest time, and there's really no need for it to actually be at as low a BR as it has. The 50mm has always been good for Germany because of the simple fact that it punches hard through a lot of stuff. At 3.7, you still have a very good kind of, I suppose, lineup for it with the Panzer IVs and things like that. And since a lot of the Panzer IVs and Panzer IIIs got reduced in BR because they were facing a lot of KV-1s and couldn't deal with them, at least now you can kind of run the Puma with them. It's a really nice little BR set for Germany, and moving this up really won't change anything about it. You can still use it with pretty much all the same lineups, and you'll still have a really good time with it. It will be mobile, it will be able to scout, and it'll be able to have the 50. It's a nice introduction for a lot of players into the kind of scouting mechanics in Germany, and I think it works really well. Two AAs which are going down in BR are the ZSU-37 and the Ostwind-2. The ZSU-37 is going down to 3.3 and is also being moved to rank 2 and groups with the ZIS-12, whereas the Ostwind will actually switch positions with the Whirlwind. This is kind of annoying because the ZSU-37, it's one of those vehicles you could take in the 3.7 lineup to be able to lower yourself to rank, up yourself to rank 2. My bad, rank 3, so you could do dailies and specials and all of that good stuff. But unfortunately, with it being dropped down to rank 2, you can't really do that anymore. You still can do it with the planes, the L185, the LA5FN, and that, will work really well, and you'll have a good time with it, so I wouldn't really worry too much. Once again, targeting speed is terrible on the ZSU-37. It's more of a tank destroyer than it is an AA, and as a tank destroyer, it doesn't really have the punch that a lot of other vehicles have, like the 40mm. So generally, it's just not in a good place, never has been, and with the overpressure changes, it's just become a much worse AA, since you could just fire one rocket at it and it just explodes. Same with the Ostwind. The Ostwind being open-topped, it just gets bullied, and it's really unfortunate what's happening in the mid-tiers with AA, where they're just getting annihilated in pretty much every sense of the word. People know exactly where the spawns are, you can't get out of spawn, there's usually a lot of CAS around, and even with guns you can just shred them now after the DMAR changes and also the good old penetration changes that came in a little bit ago for a lot of air guns. So yeah, it kind of sucks, and to see this happen is not a surprise. The BTR 152D is also going up. This one, Not really a surprise once again. Even though most AAs are getting crippled, the 152 is doing a lot better than most, mainly because it has the quad mount, it has very good muzzle velocity, and also pretty decent speed on the rounds themselves. So generally you're able to, wrap around the gun and just hammer things with it, which works pretty good. I've had a great time with it, and no surprise to see it go up. So we will see what goes on with the BTR 152D, because the whole idea was it was supposed to fill that gap, and now it kind of is in the place where it's supposed to fill, but maybe it'll change in the future again because of its power. The targeting speed is the only thing you could really change on it to try and balance it if you wanted to. Then the T-34s. So the Swedish T-34, the 1941, the 1st Guards Tank Brigade, and also, well, that's actually it for realistic. All of these, which are the early T-34s, they're going up to 4.0 from 3.7. No surprise here. T-34s have incredibly trolley armor, especially for new players. They are probably the easiest vehicle out of the three to use. Basically, the Sherman, like the early Sherman, the T-34, and the Panzer IVs. I feel like the T-34 overall is just the easiest, so a lot of people gravitate to it. You can be highly mobile in the vehicle while also still having a pretty stabilized gun. The only thing it lacks is kind of a top-mounted gun, which will be really nice on it. So to see it go up in BR is no surprise at all. No surprise for me. I think overall, I would definitely say that the T-34s are overperforming in the mid-tiers until you get to like 5.7, and then they kind of just get clapped. They're in kind of a bang-bust scenario right now, and seeing these ones go up, not really a surprise. They'll still be fine. They might have a bit of an issue with penetration against 5.0 vehicles, but there aren't many 5.0 heavies or 4.7 heavies that aren't Soviet anymore. So I don't think you really need to worry unless you run into a bunch of Churchills, which all have very obvious weak spots. They're also finally moving down the M42s. So the M42 for Japan, China, and America is going down to 4.0. Will this fix them? No, because they're open-top vehicles, overpressure is way too overpowered, and all of these open-top vehicles in the mid-tiers are really struggling to kind of find their feet, which is why a lot of these guys are going down in BR. And you'll keep seeing it over and over again until that type of system is changed. It sucks having a bomb drop like 50 meters away from you and you just end up dying to it anyway, even though the guy was miles away and it was a tiny bomb. Even you can have 100 meters with like 1,000 pounder near you and you just die. And as an AA, you get targeted quite a lot. The only thing I could say, which I think is needed, is at least from a gameplay point of view, and also understand, I feel like there isn't a way you can actually fix this gameplay-wise, but at least to make it better, is I do see a lot of people opening up on enemies way too early, meaning that they're not in their attack run, and at the same time, they can see you on the, they can see your traces, so they can line up on you. So wait until they're a bit closer and then go after them. But still, that doesn't fix it. The American M42 will be grouped with the M19, so at least it'll be a bit cheaper to research, which will be quite nice. But overall, it's a horrific time for vehicles like them. The slow firing, 40 millimeters, decent muzzle velocity, but nothing compared to the new vehicles. Now that they've added a lot of vehicles in that BR range, which are high firing, high velocity kind of AA vehicles, they feel a lot better. One of the things to note, though, is America is still missing a mid-tier AA. They just don't have one. You have the M19 to the M42, and then all the way to the M163. They're in a similar position to a lot of other nations where, like a few years ago, they fixed those nations. It's time to fix America. It's time to put in some kind of high-powered, high-velocity, high muzzle velocity, vehicle to fix that gap. Can't just rely on planes all the time, especially now that a ton of people don't play them anymore. Continuing the mid-tier craziness, we have two more AAs which are going up. You have the ZSD-63 and the Leopard 4070, both for different reasons though. The ZSD-63 is going up because, once again, high velocity, good rate of fire AA. and it's actually switching positions with the M42 for China. So it is now actually seen as better, even though it's been better for the longest time. They just for some reason didn't switch it. So yeah, the only thing that the ZST struggles with is the fact that its reload is quite long and its clip size is quite small. But overall, it's still good. It's a great multi-role vehicle. It works really well. It's been great since the beginning of the time it was added. It actually started at a lot lower BR. It was one of the first kind of high muzzle velocity AAs that we had in the mid-tiers, and it's just done really well for itself. So, not too surprising to see it go up. Still has the same overpressure issues. Hopefully they can fix it for all these AAs. The Leopard 4070 going up is a surprise. And the reason why it's a surprise is because even though it's got the 4070 bofers, meaning it's got a high fire rate, it was bugged out for the longest time. And I don't know if they're using the stats on when it was bugged out, or if they're using more recent stats, but the 4070 could not be overpressured. So even though its turret was completely exposed, you could not overpressure it. Now, it's based on the Leopard 1 chassis, so it's got very good mobility for the area, and also it's got pretty good targeting speed. The only issue is obviously the crew's kind of exposed, but generally what I would say is I would say it's still in a good place for a tank destroyer role and kind of an AA role. So that's why it will have gone up, because it's being used to flank, being used to hammer, and I don't think it would actually change anything at the BR that it's at. I still think you have a pretty good 5-7 lineup, unless obviously with some of the changes it's kind of destroyed. I'd have to look at it, but I still think it will be fine in that role. It won't really change much, apart from in full up tiers you go up against more American heavies, but I mean that's just what you were doing anyway at 6-3 at the, since that's like the mega BR for stuff like that. Then you have the M18s, so all of them, so I forgot how many M18s we have in the game. You have the American one, the premium American one, the Chinese one, and also the Italian one. They're all going up to 6.0. This sucks. The M64 is also going up to 6.0, by the way. Yeah, this really sucks. So the Hellcat was a mainstay for me for the longest time for events, and then also just doing general challenges like intelligences and things like that. And it going up to 6.0 kind of ends an era, and it just makes me very sad. Because the vehicle itself is fantastic. It's very mobile, and with the horsepower change once again, recently it's going to be a lot faster, which is really fun. It's just sad, because it's one of those vehicles you can just play, very easy to cap points, very easy to scout, pretty easy to kill people, use the smoke shells really effectively, and now it's going up. It still will be kind of fine in that role, but the problem is you're going to run into a lot more of that 6-7 area, which is where a lot of the heavies sit, and it's a lot harder to play against those heavies compared to many others. So should it go up? Yeah, probably. It's the primo kind of scout in that area, but also at the same time, it's now gonna have really dodgy lineups, especially with the minor nations, and it's just not gonna feel as good, and that just sucks. It really does. The BTR-ZD is going up once again, high velocity, high fire rate. No surprise. It's one of those which will continue to climb because of the fact that it's an actual useful AA and people use it. Whereas all of the low velocity, low targeting speed AAs keep going down. The high targeting speed, high velocity AAs keep going up. Who could have seen this coming? I just want to be a bit careful with this, because as I said before, every time an AA goes up, that means it can't be part of a BR bracket. And because it can't be part of a BR bracket, you might Stormer it, meaning that it's in the middle of random BR brackets, like the Stormer was for the longest time, and therefore it was very hard to use, because you had to up tier your whole BR to use the Stormer, which is, let's just say, not exactly the greatest idea, especially since the Stormer has its fundamental issues. Then you have the Super Hellcat. The Hellcat that everybody forgets about, which was also changed to a light tank, by the way. So this vehicle is going to 6.7. I think it's fine, it's basically a Hellcat with a 90mm. So it's highly mobile. The 90 is nice. It works well. They can always add rounds to it if they want to make it a bit better, but I feel like it's in a pretty good place. I'm not really too worried about it. 6.7 is so stacked for America, by the way. Like, you know, all of the heavies, all of the light tanks. So moving it to 6.7 won't really make too much of a difference. Like, you'll still be able to run it with a fantastic lineup. 6.7 has been the trouble BR for the longest time for a lot of these vehicles, where they just get sucked into it and they just get annihilated. And these changes don't change any of that, so basically you're going to get a lot of stuff going on. The 76 Sheridan goes up, no surprise. I generally think that's a good change. I don't think the Sheridan, the Battle Pass Sheridan should have been at 6.7. You know, we made the video on it. Stabilized gun, you know, good penetration, and generally just able to get the first shot off in every engagement, and it was always going to be very powerful against a lot of those heavies of those BRs, and it was. So to see it go up, no surprise. I could actually see it going up again once more people get access to it, with the Battle Pass coming to an end now. And yeah, I think it's a really powerful vehicle. Very, very fun. Talking about powerful vehicles, we have the Fox, going from 7.0 to 7.7, so going up 2 BR brackets, and it's been moved from rank 4 to rank 5. Now, we talked about, I did a video on the Fox, because it was the first vehicle we spaded. One of the big issues about the Fox is you can't hear it, so a lot of the time it will get the first shot off before you even know it exists, and that is very, very damaging. One of the things I also said is I actually don't think putting it up in BR really does anything for the vehicle, meaning that you'll actually just go up against lighter stuff, apart from the Soviets around these BRs, stuff like Leopards, for example, and M60s, you can easily pen from the side. I've actually seen a lot of people use the Fox at much higher BRs, just to, I don't know, either have a kind of light tank element, or just to get to positions early with it. And generally, you know, it can do pretty well. I feel like it going up in BR is not a surprise. The APDS on the Raden, for some reason, does way more damage than any other 30mm that exists. No idea how they've been able to do that, but yeah, it's kind of nuts how you can one-tap vehicles with it, even, you know, with full crew compartments. But yeah, this change I don't think will actually affect it that much, or as badly as people think. Because its playstyle doesn't change, it's still going to be faster than everything. The only issue is you're going to run into more Soviet beasties, and at the same time, you're going to run into more stabilizers. But you can still scout, you can still stay away from the enemy, you can generally have a good time, so I don't think it'll be too bad overall. Then, the BMPs are going up, so the BMP-1, the ZBD-86, and also the German BMP are all going to 8.0. This is fine. You know, the BMPs have been very powerful for the longest time. Once again, just another trend that's going on. You know, high-powered AAs going up in BR, a lot of light tanks going up in BR too. No surprise at all. And the IKV-91 joins the BMPs going up as well. All of these vehicles are highly mobile, quite lightweight, but generally, you know, can actually survive a shot, weirdly enough, because of their armor, especially the BMP with that upper glacis. The only thing I would remember is that the PBV 601 exists, and that thing's still at like 6.7, and the only difference between it and the other BMPs is it doesn't have the missile. And yes, the missile is pretty useful, especially when dealing with kind of heavier units, but at the same time, there is not a 1.3 BR difference or 4 BR bracket difference between those vehicles. So yeah, this won't really affect the BMPs too much. All of these lineups exist quite heavily at 8.0, so you can just kind of, you know, go ahead and sort it out, and it should be completely fine. So I wouldn't worry at all about it. I think it will still do what it does very effectively. And then you have the AMX-30 DCA going up once again. They nerfed it quite aggressively previously, and it's still going up in BR. You know, they took away a lot of its kind of tank killing capability. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. I think it would be fine at 8.3. I mean, once again, 8.7 is still a good BR for France. You can still run it with a bunch of stuff, but does it really need to go up? Is it equal to something like the EVGA? I don't think so. I think at that point you're getting a little bit all over the place with these types of vehicles. So yeah, I kind of disagree with that one. I generally think, even though it's quite good, we need some AAs to actually be able to deal with the CAS elements that are coming in. Like the AMX 30 DCA against, let's say, an A4 being played properly, you get nuked. Like there's nothing you can do. The last one is the Roland 1, which is going down to 9.7. This is the French Roland, and the reason why this is going down and other stuff isn't is basically because of its vertical guidance. Its vertical guidance for an AA is terrible, and I have no idea why that's the case, because it's exactly the same turret as the Florak Panzer 1, or at least it seems like it's the same turret. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. But for me, when I look at the Roland, yeah, it's in a pretty rough place, and so are the Florak Panzers, so are a lot of those missile Saklos AAs, because they just don't work very well. So for me, I would definitely say it's nice to see that it's finally getting recognition and going down, but there's also a lot of other vehicles around those BRs that are put down too. That's all the BR changes so far. So the trends are, they're trying to really work out where SPAAs are supposed to be, and also light tanks are still very dominant. Not a surprise, it's been that way for quite a while, and hopefully it will continue that way, because light tanks are pretty fun to play. Another thing to also say is the ZIS-43 is getting grouped with the BTR-152, so that'll make research a little bit easier in the Soviet SPAA line. There's no way these are the last changes, by the way. They will do more of them. I'll probably give my thoughts on some changes for tomorrow. But as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.